So one easy way to start elevating your videos is to start focusing on audio. Audio is often an overlooked aspect of the filmmaking process, and when done right, it can add so much value. And the first step to start getting better audio is to buy a microphone. And there's so many different microphones on the market, so which one do you choose? For me, I really value versatility and usability. I want it to be easy to use, streamlined, reliable. I don't want to have a whole plethora of microphones. I want to have one or two that I can use for literally everything that I need, and I know that it'll deliver high quality audio. And today I want to talk to you guys about what I think is the most versatile microphone for content creators, and that's the Rode Videomic NTG. So I bought this microphone back in 2019 for $250, and I just recently checked Amazon and I noticed that it dropped down to $200, which is an absolute steal. So I bought this microphone primarily for having ambient audio. I would run the microphone on my camera, or I'd connect it to my Zoom and get audio when I'm out in the field. I also use it for interviews as well as Zoom calls, and I eventually started using it for my own YouTube channel once I started getting more into the space. And Rode's slogan for this microphone is one microphone, endless possibilities, and it's a pretty accurate statement. So let's get into the features of this microphone. For $200, it's packed full of features. This microphone features a very directional cardioid pattern, so when you point out a subject, it's gonna be pretty isolated, picking up only the audio in front of the microphone. It's not gonna be spatial, so it works really well for talking heads, or if you're trying to get directional ambient audio, it works really well for that too. So easily my favorite feature of this microphone is the internal rechargeable battery. It features up to 30 hours of battery life, it charges within 2 hours, and you can charge it through the USB-C port, USB-C all the things, and you can also connect it to your computer as a desktop microphone through that same USB-C port. It also has an auto-sensing 3.5mm input, so if you connect it to your camera or your phone, it'll automatically detect what setting to set it to, as well as when you turn your camera on, the microphone will turn on. When you turn the camera off, your microphone will turn off. You're also going to get high-pass filters going from flat to 75 Hz to 150 Hz to cut out those low-end rumbles. You also get a high-frequency boost to help raise up the higher end. You get a pad with a negative 20 decibel cut in case your scene is too loud. You also get a fun little light to show if you're peaking audio, which is really nice to see because sometimes on camera it's hard to tell if you're clipping or not. And you also get a feature to have a safety channel, which is one of my other favorite features of this microphone. It comes with a shock mount with an adjustable cold shoe mount, allowing you to move your mic back and forth as you need. Also on the shock mount, Rode added these little channels to have your cables run through so you don't have cables all over the place. You can channel them in, have nice cable management, and there's nothing in the way that will get tugged on or broken. And one of the other cool things about this microphone is that you get a variable stepless gain knob on the back of the microphone, so you can adjust that as you go. You don't need to dive into your camera settings and change the audio there. It's quick and easy. You can even twist it if you're vlogging. You just reach around the camera, twist it, and your audio settings are now dialed. No pun intended on that. So how do I use this microphone? I use it for so many different use cases. I throw it on top of my camera to get ambient audio. I've used it for interviews and talking heads, and I also use it for Zoom calls. So whenever I'm doing an online mentor session, or if I have a Zoom call with a client, I plug my microphone into the USB-C port on my monitor, which is connected to my computer, and I'm able to get really clear sounding audio instead of having to run AirPods or rely on my computer audio. But since picking up this microphone, I've also bought the Sennheiser MKE600. I bought that around the time I got my Sony FX3, and I bought this microphone for all my professional needs. It's definitely bigger, it's more expensive, it's XLR, and has phantom power, but they serve two different use cases. Anytime I'm going out and filming for my own YouTube channel, I'm going to be reaching for this microphone. It delivers on the audio quality, it has all the features that I need, and it keeps the kit super small, which is something that's super valuable to me. Anything I'm doing for client work, whether it's SAM or social brand or whatever, if I'm going to be having a big kit, I might as well throw the Sennheiser on there, but it's also double the price. This microphone definitely competes with all of the higher end shotgun microphones, and it kind of separates itself from the lower end prosumer microphones. So to show off this microphone, let's go through some tests. All right, so now it's time for some settings tests. With these microphones, it's kind of confusing to figure out what settings to use. So we're gonna go through all these different combinations between the mic level and the camera level to figure out which one provides the best quality possible with the lowest noise floor. So for this entire test, my Rode Videomic NTG is plugged into the 3.5 input on my Sony FX3, and we'll go through exactly like that. So right now you're listening to the Rode Videomic NTG at level 15, and then my camera is set to level 1. All right, so now I changed the mic setting to level 8, and I changed my camera setting to level 10. So the camera is up a little bit higher, the mic is a little bit lower. So bringing the camera level up might introduce some hissing, so I usually tend to leave the camera low and then just adjust all my levels based off of the microphone. All right, so now we went up really high. So now the camera is set to level 20 and the mic is set to level 3. So this is kind of around the range that I was using this microphone primarily. And recently when I was was making this video, I kind of learned to keep the camera down low and then just adjust based off of the microphone. So this is really high. You might need to go this high on the camera if your microphone isn't as sensitive. But with this microphone, again, I highly recommend leaving the camera as low as possible. All right, and this is kind of a wild card situation. I put the camera as high as it can go, so it's at level 31, so it's insanely high. And then I have my mic set to level 1, but even level 1 was way too high, so I had to use the negative 20 decibel pad on it. But still, having that pad on there and having the mic set to level 1, it still has the microphone reading super hot. So this is definitely not an ideal situation to put your microphone in, and I highly recommend going against that. Alright, so here's a little vlog test of the Sony FX3 with the internal microphone. The camera is about an arm's length away, kind of like a normal vlogging position that you'd probably find yourself using. And the audio quality on this is horrendous. It's super far away, it's super echoey, and it just doesn't sound professional at all. So for you vloggers, you definitely don't want to be running the internal microphone. You want to get yourself a shotgun microphone, namely the Rode Videomic NTG. So let's throw on that microphone right now. For this, I have the microphone set to 11 and the camera set to 5. And you can tell that the audio quality is significantly better. It feels more rich. And even though I'm in a super echoey place, like my kitchen right here, it doesn't really sound that bad in comparison. But in general, if you want to have good audio, you want to be in a space that's not super echoey, mostly with walls or concrete or whatever. You want to be outdoors. You want to be in a room that has a bunch of like blankets and pillows and stuff to absorb that sound. But for most use cases, this is a pretty solid setup for people to use. Okay, so this is a test to see the directionality of this shotgun microphone. With these shotgun microphones, they're super narrow, so they really only capture the audio in front of it. So I'm gonna move around to 90 degrees on the side of the microphone. So my voice shouldn't be as clear as it was if I was in front of the microphone. And then now let's move behind the microphone. So I'm completely behind it, basically on the operator side if you're using a mirrorless camera. And then now we're moving 90 degrees over to the right side of the microphone, and then now we are back in front of it. So if you're doing any vlogging and you're talking to the camera and then you want to point at something and then continue talking, your audio is not going to be as crisp and clear as you'd like it to be. So you might have to switch the microphone around to get better audio quality. But this microphone's super directional. I absolutely love it. It works great for interviews and for ambient noise, and it really helps isolate that sound and not allowing the cars and airplanes and other outside noise to get into your recording.
I'm shooting on the Fuji Xe4, baby. It's the little point and shoot style mirrorless camera by Fujifilm. It's like the X100V. It's nice and easy to just fit in here while you're backpacking. So it's nice to just put it on your shoulder and not have to worry about it. Pick it up. Aperture priority. Bang! Banger.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Definitely always humbling hiking up a mountain.
It's the best.
It's awesome though. It's gorgeous,
best.
dude. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So I was on this tree, trying to go to that tree right there, but it's way too far. So I'm gonna go from this tree right there to that bad boy.
This time, this moment right now is this way.
I might try to get up here.
Where do I take my AE1 to get next?
So now I want to test out the low cut filters as well as the high end frequency boost. I don't really use these things pretty much at all. I just stick to the safety track and then just adjusting my volume with the gain dial. The low cut filters are usually nice for when you have wind noise or any kind of rumble, or if you're talking very close to a microphone. You get those pops, and because your vocals are so close to the microphone, it really picks up those lower ends. So if you're close to your mic, you might want to use the low cut filters. And then for the high frequency boost, usually when you're using a foam windscreen or a dead cat, it takes out those higher ends and it doesn't really keep them as crisp as they would be without those things. So to compensate for that, you'd probably put the high end boost on, but I never use that. I've never had any issues, but let's test it out anyways. So with all that, you were listening to no settings added on with a dead cat. The camera was set to level 1, and then the microphone was set to level 13. So we'll keep those same settings throughout. We'll just change between the low cut filter and the high end frequency boost. Okay, so now we have the high end frequency boost on, and I'm at the same distance away from my camera. Right now I'm using a 20mm Sony lens, so I'm a lot closer to this camera than I would be with my 24mm. So being closer to the camera might introduce those rumbles and pops that I was talking about earlier. So the 75 Hertz should make a little bit of a difference, but we'll see. So now we have the 150 Hertz low cut filter on. So if you didn't really hear any difference with the 75, hopefully you should hear a difference with this. I'm still the same distance away. There's still wind coming in over my shoulder. And yeah, I probably won't be able to tell a difference. Some of you guys might be able to, but yeah. So now we have no low cut filters on, but we have the high end frequency boost on. So this is kind of an ideal situation that you would use this in. I have a dead cat on, which would muffle out those higher ends. So being able to boost it up will compensate for it. But like I said, with all these other filters, I don't use them at all. Never had the need for it, but some of you guys might enjoy this feature of having a high-end boost. So now we have a wild card situation. We have the 75 Hertz low cut filter on with the high-end boost. We still have the same settings, we still have the dead cat on here, still the same distance away, but this might start sounding a little bit funky because you have the low cut filter going, you have the high-end boost, so it's kind of like a weird like S-curve with your lower ends to your higher ends. So I'm not really sure how this is going to sound. It could be absolutely trash, but I feel like these settings are pretty ideal for the situation that I'm in. I'm pretty close to the camera and there's wind noise coming in over my shoulder, so the low cut filter should take care of that. And then I have a dead cat windscreen on top, which the high-end boost should compensate for. So it's kind of a double whammy going on. Again, it might not sound good, but I guess we'll see. So now we jumped it up to the 150 Hertz low cut filter and then the high end boost. So the same things as I said for the last one, but now we're a little bit higher up on the low cut filter. So if you didn't really hear a difference before, you might hear one now. Still the same distance away, starting to get repetitive and boring. Sorry about that, but hey, this might be helpful. So you may have already came to this conclusion from watching this video, but I absolutely love this microphone. The internal battery is so easy. It lasts for 30 hours. It charges super quickly through USB-C, and it's just super reliable in that front. I don't really like having microphones that have AA batteries I have to put into there. It just starts to become like a nuisance having to carry all these batteries with you. I'm already going to be bringing a portable charger on most shoots, so being able to charge up my microphone if I need to is really nice to have. I also love that this microphone auto turns on and off. One of the least favorite things about other microphones that I've used is that you have to actually turn it on or turn it off, and you can often forget it, especially when you're out doing run and gun filmmaking. I've definitely missed audio by doing that, and I've also forgot to turn my microphone off, and it stayed on all night, and then now I am out of battery and I need to replace it with my AA batteries. So that's super underrated in this microphone. I'm a big fan of phantom power in my MKE 600, and I feel like this is pretty much as close to phantom power that you can get in a tiny little microphone. The gain knob also makes it super easy to dial in your settings when you're out filming. When I'm filming, I'm usually looking at the audio levels to make sure that the levels are right, and if the scene's too quiet, I can just crank the dial up. If it's too loud, I can crank it down. It's super quick, really easy, and the safety track is absolutely legendary. I'm a big fan of having redundancy, and safety tracks are an easy way to have redundancy with your microphone. The safety track allows you to have the main audio in channel 1 and then a -20 version of that in channel 2. So if channel 1's too hot, you can go to channel 2 and be able to salvage that audio. But one of my main tips for this microphone is to make sure your channel 1 is absolutely dialed and have channel 2 as an absolute backup. Don't rely on channel 2, because if channel 1's too loud, it's just going to be mimicked and it'll sound pretty crunchy and not as good in channel 2. But when I'm editing, it's nice to be able to pick between channel 1 and 2 if I need to. It creates a stereo track and you can just select channel 1 or channel 2 and go from there. This microphone is so versatile. It was a great first mic for me to get into, especially for interviews and doing YouTube stuff, and I haven't sold it off. I've used it for the last handful of years since 2019. I still use it with my computer. I still use it with my camera. The versatility of this microphone has kept me from selling it, and I can't really imagine selling it until maybe they have the Rode Videomic NTG version 2. So let's go into the only dislike I have about this microphone. The safety channel right now has normal for channel 1 and then -20 in channel 2. Most of the times when I'm using the safety channel, -20 is often too low. So I wish there was like a button or something on the microphone that we can change it from like -5 to -10 to -20. I feel like I would probably use -5 and -10 a bunch of the times just because -20 seems to be too much for a safety channel. Now let's get into the accessories for this microphone. I highly recommend getting the WS11 windscreen. It's just a foam furry dead cat that you put on your microphone. I would highly recommend not using the stock foam windscreen that Rode gives you. Those things aren't really good for anything besides being in a studio, but even then when I'm in a studio, I always just run the microphone bare. I don't have any windscreen on it. That's what I'm doing right now with my MKE 600. So I highly recommend getting that windscreen if you're doing anything outdoors with any wind. And that windscreen is probably about $40. It's super solid. It cuts out all that wind noise and it sounds so much better than that stock foam windscreen. So to prove that to you, here's a little test of the WS11 dead cat versus the stock foam windscreen. So now we're gonna do some tests between the dead cat and the foam windscreen versus the microphone being bare bones. So the foam windscreen is this little dinky thing that you get when you buy the microphone. Right now you're listening to the microphone with the WS11 dead cat, which I personally use for everything. Any microphone that I buy, I'm throwing a dead cat on there. These foam windscreens are absolutely useless. So let's go to the first variable, which is the microphone with nothing on it. So we took the dead cat off and it's a little bit windy right behind me, so the audio might be absolutely trash, so we'll make this pretty quick. This is the stock windscreen that you get from Rode, and then this is Rode's WS11 dead cat, which is a whole lot thicker. So with this furry, thick foam, it really keeps the wind noise out and it keeps your audio sounding super crisp. So let's throw on this stock foam windscreen. So now we put the stock foam windscreen that you get from Rode, and it's a huge step from having nothing on your microphone, especially having wind noise coming in from behind, hitting directly on the microphone. But even though it sounds a lot better than having nothing on your microphone, it still doesn't sound crystal clear. It has like that muffly kind of peaky noise that you get from having wind coming into your microphone. It just sounds rumbly and gross. So I never use this thing. Immediately when I got this microphone, I bought the dead cat. I wish I got one sooner. And I learned from this, so when I got my MKE 600, I bought the bundle that came with a dead cat. And these dead cats are phenomenal. They might make you lose a couple decibels of audio quality and maybe like some frequencies, but who cares about that? The audio quality is so much better not having the wind noise just muffle everything out. So let's throw the Rode dead cat back on this microphone. Now we have the lovely WS11 dead cat on this microphone, which I feel like just complements this mic so well. Especially when I'm out in the field, I often encounter a lot of wind noise, and there's often times where the wind is just super gnarly, but you still want to be able to get good sounding audio. So these dead cats are priceless. They add so much value to your microphone, and for 30-40 bucks, it's kind of a no-brainer addition to this microphone. So for other accessories, I don't think you need that much. The only other thing I could think of is a 3.5 to XLR cable if you want to run it with an XLR input. But if you're looking into this microphone, you probably don't have an XLR input, so you're just going to run it into the camera anyways through the 3.5 input. So you can always get that cable if you need it, but that's pretty much it. The shock mount is super solid. I haven't had a need to buy a different shock mount for this. It's still low profile, it has the cable management, and it really helps isolate the microphone from all the camera jitters or movements. Okay, so now let's talk about this microphone compared to the competition. And I feel like there's two main microphones that kind of compete with the Rode Videomic NTG. The first one being the Sennheiser MKE 400, and then the second being the Deity D3 Pro. I'm sure both of these mics offer great sounding audio for the price because they're all kind of around the $200 range anyways. With the MKE 400, I really wish it had a safety track. I feel like that's one of the main features that I really love about the Rode that I would be missing if I had the MKE 400. And the MKE 400 also has internal batteries, but you have to use AAA batteries. Though they last 100 hours, it'd still be nice to have a rechargeable battery. I don't really carry batteries around too much in the first place, but I'm sure it's not a big deal for people who own this microphone. It has a built-in windscreen, and it has a built-in shock mount, and it has a pretty low profile. So I really do like the microphone for those reasons, but the safety track is something that keeps me from really upgrading to the MKE 400. The MKE 400 also has a 3-step gain setting. You have -20 to kind of bring it down, you have 0, and then you have +20. So that definitely makes up for not having a stepless gain knob like the Rode Videomic NTG, and this microphone is also a lot smaller, and it seems like a pretty solid kit. And then the Deity D3 Pro. It's another solid option compared to the Rode Videomic NTG. It's $140, so you can find it for a lot cheaper. It basically has the same features and settings. It has a little bit longer battery life. It has the same stepless gain knob. It has all the other features that is shared with the Rode Videomic NTG, as far as I know. But the audio quality definitely sounds a bit more thin than this Rode Videomic NTG. That MKE 400 is definitely a solid option, but I think the Rode Videomic NTG has the upper hand with the stepless gain knob and the safety track, as well as having the internal rechargeable battery. Alright, so I've had a handful of you guys ask me to compare my MKE 600 versus my Rode Videomic NTG, and I feel like it's definitely an unfair comparison, but we're going to do it anyways. So first off, I highly recommend owning 2 microphones, having one for a travel setup and then one for like a professional environment. If I'm doing anything professional where audio definitely matters, I'm going for the MKE 600. It has phantom power, it has XLR. Most of the times when I'm rigging at the Sony FX3, I'm using the included top handle that has the XLR inputs, and because it has the XLR inputs with phantom power, I might as well use the MKE 600 with that, but I could still use my Rode Videomic NTG plugged into the XLR input as well. Right now I have both mics boomed out and they're both going into the XLR port, so you can definitely get a cable for the Rode Videomic NTG to go into the XLR, but if you're gonna be running that top handle anyways, you might as well have a nicer microphone to throw on top. When it comes to anything where I need a travel minimal kit, I'm gonna be leaving this top handle at home. It's a little fragile, it's a little top heavy, and it takes up a lot of space in my backpack. So if I'm going anywhere on a trip, I'm gonna be running the camera just as it is, and I'm going to be putting a microphone on top of that. The MKE 600 would work great for that. You can have an XLR to a 3.5 cable, plugging it into your camera, and having this larger microphone on top of this small camera just looks a little funky. You don't have the phantom power inside, so you have to change the settings inside the camera, and now you have to worry about battery life and all that. So you might as well run a smaller microphone on that, and that's where the Rode Videomic NTG comes into play. This microphone is so small, it's so lightweight, it plugs straight into the 3.5 port, it has internal battery life, so I don't have to worry about charging it really ever, and the audio quality is pretty comparable, and if I don't have access to any XLR inputs, I'm going to be reaching for this microphone because of the 3.5 input. Both of these microphones are incredible. I highly recommend owning both of these. The MKE 600 is an incredible sounding microphone. You can get it for around $400, which is a little steep if it's going to be your first shotgun microphone, so if you want something a little bit more budget friendly but still has a lot of the great features and great sounding audio, the Rode Videomic NTG is a solid option for you. The MKE 600 is a great microphone, but it's pretty bare bones. You can power it through AA batteries, you can power it through phantom power, it has an XLR port, and has a low cut filter, and that's basically it. It doesn't have an included safety track, but if you're using this microphone, more often than not, you're going to be having multiple XLR inputs, and you're able to have more options with channels because you're using an actual audio interface. When I run it with the top handle, I put the first channel on auto, and then I have the second channel on manual, so I'm able to manually adjust my safety channel as I'm filming. So that's a great option for me when I'm using the top handle. You could definitely do that with the Rode Videomic NTG as well, but when it comes to running it into the 3.5 port, you can't really do that with the MKE 600. So that's where having the built-in safety channel on the Rode Videomic NTG is really nice to have. And after running all these tests, I'm really impressed with this Rode Videomic NTG. For half the price, it's pretty comparable to this MKE 600. I feel like the MKE 600 has more of a spectrum of the frequencies that it captures, whereas the Videomic NTG feels a little bass heavy, but that's only side by side comparing. But when you listen to these standalone by themselves, no one's gonna really tell. It's better than having internal audio on your camera. It's a better option than most of the other shotgun microphones on the market, especially the low end on camera ones. And both of these microphones just deliver so much value for a really low cost. And seeing how comparable this mic is to my MKE 600, it makes me want to use it more and more and more. So who should buy this microphone? I feel like this microphone fits so many needs for your general content creator. So if you're looking for your first shotgun microphone, I feel like you can't go wrong with this because it's so versatile. You could save up money as you use it, then buy a nicer shotgun microphone for all your professional needs, and then you can still keep that microphone if you need a smaller kit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I absolutely love this microphone, and I think you would too. It's a super versatile mic that gives you a ton of features, great sounding audio, and you can get all that for $200. So it's a pretty solid deal. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like down below. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions about this microphone or the MKE 600. be down to chat through all of that. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.